Run Pitbul Run by George Fitzgerald, Book 2, Chapter 1. They called Gussie's ma Happy Dungarvan. Dad said that Dungarvan is a town in County Waterford. Ma said it's in Kerry. She said everybody knows Dungarvan's in Kerry. Kerry, you tick, shouted me granny. Waterford, replied me dad. You know what? It's bad enough being a tick, but to stand there and show the whole world you're one, well, that takes a special person, says me granny. In comes me Aunt Maggie, Jaggerlips, as granny called her, behind her back. She plants a kiss on granny's forehead. Granny wipes it away with vengeance, as if some dog had licked her. She spits onto the floor and raises her fist behind me Aunt Maggie's back. Maggie drags the chair across the floor. Right, so what's up? Asked Maggie as she took her seat in the high chair. We had chairs and one stool. It was high, and Maggie sat in it like a judge. Dungarvan. Where is it? Asked Ma. Dungarvan. Sure, that's an easy one, she said, as if she was a contestant in Mastermind. Well then, where is it? Shouted me ma. Go on, tell us, brain box, joined in me granny. Cork. It's in Cork. Dad rubbed his chin aggressively. His eyes ran around the room, stopping at each one. He was mumbling. I couldn't hear him, but I saw his lips moving up and down. It was like his bottom lip was arguing with his top one. He glanced at me. His glance was so fast. He looked at me again with an expression as if he'd never seen me before, or at least it was like it was the first time he saw me. Tell them where Dungarvan is. You're the pupil. Waterford. We learned it in geography. I lied. Granny blew her lips together and then said, See, it takes an idiot to raise one. Was your father in the circus? Asked Dad. He was calling her a clown without saying it. She pushed her false teeth out and the rest of them on her bottom lip. They just hung there like a truck on the edge of a mountain about to fall. Even her teeth wanted to run away, I thought. Me dad and granny's eyes met in the middle of the ring, like old veteran fighters who'd fought many battles before. Ma and Maggie looked on. I saw Ma putting on her thinking head because the finger was pressed against her lips, as was her custom, while Granny looked with eyes full of vengeance, and Maggie sideward glanced at everyone as she lit a smoke and blew rings into the air. She took a sip of the coffee that Mad made, careful not to slurp too loudly. A slurp, controlled, a drag, a puff, and a bark from the cough she had. Granny tried to get up off the chair. Dad said, Stay where you are. The last time you moved, Elvis was in a jockstrap. I never knew Elvis was in a jockstrap. Neither did Maggie, because I seen her mount the word jockstrap. The only jockstrap here is you, Granny replied. What would you know about a claptrap? Me dad answered. Granny lit her pipe and said, Jockstrap. Ma was disturbed. That was a given. She was not a tough person. She came from it. Look at her ma. She was inner city reared 7 kids in a tenement house. They lived in Sean McDermott Street, Middle Gardner Street, Summerhill and so on. So did we as kids. But Ma grew up there. Forever moving around. Her dad was always out of work and money was hard to come by. Ma walked the streets selling fish, like Tilly, or anything she could, Her school days were over when she was 12 years of age, and on that very day her brother, who was 13, was sent to a home for boys in the country far from his family for robbing a loaf of bread and a pound of butter. I once overheard Ma saying it was the worst day of her life when her brother was taken away. The disapproval look that Maggie had for Da diminished. In a moment of clarity, the blazing revelation came to her, and she saw her Ma for who she was. Maggie viewed her Ma through a set of filters that shielded her from the reality that her Ma was, to be frank, a selfish nutjob. The image she had of her was rooted in fantasy. As Maggie clung to this version, she carefully put one foot in front of the other and performed a delicate dance around her. Ma wanted a transformed space, well away from the world she'd grown up in, a place where the air was filled with the aroma of spices and ginger and sweet-smelling aromas from cooking and baking, a homey, welcoming place with books and artwork and furniture that might have been second-hand, but comfortable. You can see someone day after day and never notice them. You can live with someone for a lifetime and never know who they really are. When that penny dropped in Maggie's head, it was so loud it dropped in mine. And in a flashing glance, I saw Ma. She was a pretty woman, not movie star pretty, but pretty, the prettiest of her family. The words I overheard the teacher say came back to me. Drifting words that go over your head, but yet have a way of lodging right there in the back of the head that would one day come forward, and they came forward that day. Yes, his mother was here, referring to me, said the teacher to another. Oh, I saw her, the pretty woman. And as I saw Ma, I saw Granny, a small, jealous woman whose only place in life was to hurt everyone around her. I was only a kid, but as Ma had said, you've a head on you, sharper than a blade. Ma opened the back door and went out into the garden. And Da left the room, and I ran out onto the streets. Everybody was running for cover. Chapter 2. That day I met Gussie and Baa Baa. They were squatting in the shadow of the wall. It was a cheerful afternoon. The coal man and rag and bone man confided to each other in the middle of the street. I sauntered up to the lad saying, "Come on, we can scut in the ragman's cart." That's what we did. Gussie's name was Bill. No one called him that except his ma. His ma hated nicknames. Happy Dungarvan said nicknames come from Nick. If you don't believe me, ask the priest. Dungarvan, or Happy Dungarvan as she was called, was not slow. She was not a slow coach when it came to voicing her opinion. Every time we called Gussie that name, she blessed her head and shoved the holy cross into his face. I told me dad, Gussie's ma has a holy cross. I know, sorry, you'd need a van to drive that thing around. Gussie's dad worked cleaning the roads. He loved his garden and painting things. Painting and planting, cleaning, that was him. He sowed a tree and watched it grow. It was beside the fence. In the summer, it would show off its colourful flowers. Gussie had two sisters. One was big like a grown-up. Her name was May. We called her Maisie. The other was small, like us. Her name was Anne. We called her A. Maisie liked makeup and hairdos. She liked to show herself off. That's what her ma said. Maisie, you like to show yourself off. Maisie said that she'd get a job in a fancy clothes shop where she could meet Tom, Dick and Harry. Ma, Gussie roared. Maisie wants to meet Tom, Dick and Harry in a fancy clothes shop. Does she now? Tom, Dick and Harry? What's this with Tom, Dick and Harry? The dad roars as I'm sitting inside in their house. Tom, Dick and Harry. Did you ever hear the likes? Answered the ma. I'll give you Tom, Dick and Harry if you hear any more of this talk. It's them Charlie's Angels. They're filling the young ones' heads with tripe, going around with them curly, whirly hairdos, said the dad. I need to get my hair done for the do. Next week, said the ma. That's what the grown-ups call the night out, a do. They were always going on a do. Yeah, okay, but none of those curly-whirly stuffs. I've had enough of those Tom, Dick and Harrys going round the place, replied the dad. Gussie's dad was forever cleaning. If he wasn't cleaning inside the house and washing the windows and the gardens, he was outside washing the walls and on the path and brushing this and brushing that, in the garden, cleaning everything he could. He was forever cleaning. Baa Baa's dad was different. His house had a lot of junk in the front garden, broken fridge, half a bike, a busted wheel, and an old bit of a cart that was upside down beside an old fridge that was busted as well, like the other one that was facing it. Both of them having an argument together. But he liked me, did Baa Baa's dad. He did. Because every time I'd walk in, he'd rub my head and say, "There you are, Pitsy, Spitsy, give the dog a bitsy." Baa Baa's dad was fat. He was a fat man they called Trunks because his legs were like tree trunks. In the summer, he wore a vest and a straw hat. He said Frank Sinatra wore the same one. Trunks loved Sinatra. He played the songs morning, noon and night. Trunks worked for the waterworks, but he got sacked. Don't ask me how. He had one of those bar things that opened the water pipes on the road. On hot days, he'd open up for us kids, winking, sneaking away back into his house. The neighbours were not too pleased, but no one said a word. No one would speak against Trunks. They weren't happy, but we had a ball. I strolled into Baa Baa's garden and looked over at Gussie's house. The curtains were waving as Maisie was sitting on the chair, getting her hair blow-dried by her ma, Happy Dungarvan. Our cousin came along. Her name is Mary. Peanut was with her. Peanut was tall, Mary was small. She had black hair. Sinatra was singing. Mary said hello, I said hello back. Peanut lit a smoke. Mary clicked her fingers to the rhythm of the song. Peanut pressed down on her lip as she took in a few drags on that cigarette she was smoking. On clicked Mary, those fingers clicking. On she went, staring at nothing. I tapped along, staring at her. Peanut was pushing her head back and forth, playing an imaginary guitar. Her foot started moving, so did mine. Mary wiggled her lips. Her hips, may I say. I did too. Peanut gave us a twirl. It was a good one, with a butt end hanging from her mouth that fell to the ground, mingling in with the junk that was in the garden. So there was clicking fingers, the hairdryer screaming. Sinatra sang, we were happy. I kept tapping. Mary said she was second cousin to Mick Jagger. That's what her dad said. Mary, you're second cousin to Mick Jagger. Mick Jagger? Yeah, Pitbull, Mick Jagger. Trunks shrugged his head out the window. Here, Trunks. Mary's second cousin to Mick Jagger. That's right, Pitbull. And I'm first cousin to Elvis. He heard up the music. The guard pulled up. The copper in the passenger seat rolled down the window of his car. He looked at Trunks and said, "Can you lower that down?" Trunks put his hand to his ear and shouted, "I can't hear you." The copper shouted a second time, "Can you lower that down?" To which Trunks replied, "What? Does me wife wear the gown?" The copper frowned very aggressively. He got out of his car and marched into the garden, being careful to dodge around everything. He took a notebook from his pocket. He looked at Trunks. Trunks peered down at him. The copper asked the same question. Trunks gave no answer. The copper said in an angry tone, "Can you lower that down?" "Of course. All you have to do was ask." "Good. Do as you're told." The copper walked away. Trunks did no such thing. Turning swiftly, the copper said to him, "You said you could turn that down." "No. I said I could. I never said I would." "All right there, country jocks." Before he could reply, the music died, and Trunks' wife stuck her head out the window. "All is well in love and war, officer," she said, pulling Trunks in out of the window. And I whispered to Mary, "I thought you were here for you, to rest you over that bit of dancing you were doing." Mary shoved me, and I went on my ear, and dirt ran up the knees of my brand new hand-me-downs. We all wore them, you know. I asked Ma, did Dad wear hand-me-downs? She looked at me as if I'd said some sin. Full words. "Not at all. Does your dad wear hand-me-downs? What do you think of your father? What do you think he is? He buys second-hand clothes off a dealer in Coles Lane near Mirror Street. Aunt Maggie often had bags of second-hand clothes. Don't ask me where she got them. Ma would force us to wear them. The jeans were too long. The legs ran out the door. Ah, look, they fit him perfectly, said Aunt Maggie. Here, get a blade and I'll shorten them, Dad said. So Ma pulled the legs across the kitchen while Dad cut them with a bread knife. Go on, go upstairs and put on your Sunday shoes. Yeah, go on. Come back down and give us a look, Aunt Maggie said. So there I was with my huckleberry thin jeans on and my shiny Sunday shoes. I felt like a cowboy. I left the house and knocked onto Baa Baa's door. He came out wearing a jumper, 10 sizes too big. Is that jumper too big or what? Nah, me ma said it fits just right. Plenty of room to grow into it, you know what I mean? Yeah, you'd be 40 by the time you fit into that thing. Nice jeans. Did you get them off your outfit? Come on, let's see if Gussie's coming out to play Pitbull. And off we went. Chapter 3. My teacher's name was Miss McCarthy, but we called her Pippi, from the TV character Pippi Longstockings. She had red hair and she often wore long stockings. She was tall, thin and pale, with a face smudged in light freckles. After a meeting that Ma had with her, she said, "Your teacher is a nice woman." Bitten the dope beside, "She reminds me of your young one, now her on the telly, squeaky long stockings." I looked at Ma and thought, and she's the dopey one. On the way to class the next day, I asked the teacher about Dungarvan. She stopped dead in her tracks and placed both hands on her hips and said, "Well now, aren't you a clever boy?" "Who, me, miss?" "Oh, yes." She bent low, pinched my cheek and said, "A clever boy." I'd like to add one word, very, a very clever boy. When everyone was sitting, she said, "I was asked a question by a very clever boy." There was a knock on the door. "Hello, Miss McCarthy. Can I excuse you for a moment?" replied one of the masters. "Yes. Will you come into the office later on today? I want to talk to you about one of your pupils." His eyes darted towards me. And she agreed and said, "Okay," and he left. She came back to the story. May I say, before I was interrupted, I was asked a question by a very clever lad. And that clever lad asked me about Dungarvan. As you chaps know, well know, may I say. She paused, rolled her eyes towards the ceiling. "I was not only born there, but lived there until I was..." She stopped. I could see her counting numbers in her head. They were not only in her head, but those numbers were on her hands, because while she was mumbling, she was counting something on her fingers. She looked into space and uttered not a word. I wondered what she was looking for in space, and where she had gone. Wherever it was, and whatever took place, she found something nice, because she came back with a happy smile. The happy smile lasted a while, because what she did next was open her flask. Yes, she had a flask, and poured herself a cup of tea. The cup of tea went up on the table, and her cigarettes came out and went into her mouth. She loved an old rag on the Albany. They were bought in the 1970s. She took a lungful of smoke and a gulp of the tea, black, with 2 sugars. She liked it black and the sweet taste of the sugar. Happy was she, Mrs. Pippi McCarthy. She took a step and a sip, a drag and a stare, as a lungful of smoke went into the air. None of us moved. We just watched her, tiptoe along, playing some happy tune in her head. Her happy tune came to an end, because turning swiftly she said, "Now, let me give you a history lesson. Dungarvan Castle was built by King John of England in the early 13th century, near the harbour. I played close to the harbour as a tiny child." When she said that, she dropped her hand to her knee and opened the palm, indicating what size she was. The castle's original construction was around 1209. She explained. Dungarvan had 2 members in the Irish Parliament until the Act of Union in 1801, and had 1 representative in the Westminster Parliament until 1885. Dungarvan surrendered without siege during the Cromwellian invasion of Ireland in 1649 to 53. So you see what a wonderful town I was born and raised in. She gave herself a tremendous applause as we sat in silence and watched her give us a twirl, take another sup of that old tea, light another smoke, and blow to our heart's content the smoke into the air. And I sat gobsmacked, thinking that Gussie's ma had a town with all that history named after her. I said it to Dad. Go away. What? Think about it. We're living around very famous people. It's amazing, isn't it? We left our house that day and the smoke was billowing into the sky from the chimneys. Not the likes the way Pippi smoked her cigarettes. This smoke was blacker and thicker. But I knew why and what the reason was Happy Dungarvan was happy for. I knew she was happy forever. Or maybe at least she would be content. Girls played with dolls, others jumped over chalk boxes on the road. The laughter of children echoed through the streets, a reminder of simple times and carefree days. As I walked further, the warmth of the community enveloped me, making me feel at home despite the growing chill, little tiny chill. Life on the road was a lived experience. You'd have to be there at that time in Dublin to know what it is I know. Kids on bikes, others chasing each other, playing cowboys and Indians, and with toy guns, the vibrant energy was infectious, filled with childhood adventures. Each corner you turned, it seemed to unveil a sense of joy, snapshots of life that reminded me of the importance of connection, laughter in our daily lives. However, there were other activities going on that weren't so joyful. They could be a little bit cruel. Chapter 4. The school week was out. Saturday arrived. I opened the hall door and found Peanut sitting on the wall, smoking her fags. She flashed a glance at me and smiled. I remember it well. The fag-smoking girl sitting on the wall, smiling at me as I came out. Why? Why do I remember it? Because it was the first time I felt a strange sensation that I'd never felt before. Pina had her hair tied back. She was wearing a clean white t-shirt and jeans and boot runners. Her carefree manner and the way the sunlight caught her hair made everything seem more vibrant that day. I walked towards her, feeling a mixture of excitement and nervousness that I had never experienced before. I could hear the door opening and the doors closing behind me, people walking around. But I'd never experienced this before. She turned again, her eyes sparkling with mischief. It was as if the world around us had simply faded away, and in that moment, nothing else mattered. Nothing at all, except that shared connection we had. I jumped on the wall and kicked my feet out, saying nothing. Then her auntie, Two Guns Tilly, with folded arms, walked up the street. Doolittle, who was smaller, followed. They watched us as they met Happy Dungarvan on the corner. So there was Tilly and Millie and Happy Dungarvan, all chatting away. I hopped off the wall and said, "Do you want to knock into Gussie and Baa Baa?" She nodded, pleased that I asked her, but secretly I think she wanted to hang out with me alone. Now, days before, boys battered a hard man's son. They not only kicked and punched him around, they stole his money and his bike also. Not a good move. The neighbouring adults scraped him off the bloodstained concrete, and he went home with a story. Peanut and I were a short distance from my home when I heard the door slam shut loudly. Peanut looked behind her one time. On her second glance she said, "Run, Pitbull, run, he has a gun." She eyeballed the man running twice. It took me 3 flashing glances to be convinced to do what Pino had said. It was 5 o'clock in the evening. Her voice repeated the alarm. "Run, Pitbull, run, he has a gun." I don't want to disappoint her. I fled, looking over my shoulder and seeing not one bloke but two racing after me. One of them had a handgun, and for some other reason those fellas got it into their brains to chase after me. Doors opened, as did windows. I passed Tilly, Millie and Happy Dungarvan and Macca and Biggie, who jumped up from the ground where they sat. In front was a wall. I could hear the guy behind me breathing heavily. Breathing. It was getting closer and closer and closer, but the wall was getting nearer. It was about 8 foot in height. I knew I could clear it. And in my young mind, I figured those men could not. They were helpless. Now, just as the thought slipped into my head, I was about to leap into the air when a hand took hold of my collar of my jumper and yanked me to the ground. The tense moments ended with me being dragged along the street, having a piece pressed against my forehead. So there I was, staring at the heavens with a loaded gun kissing my crown. One click. The game was up. The gangster growled, and I felt his anger. His eyes flamed hotter than a fire. Our granny standing in the hall that day when Aberdale came in. He put the gun away and slapped my jaw. The next blow stunned me, he shouted. Then he turned and smiled at the fella behind. Here's the thing, they did not care. They cared not who witnessed their actions or what impacted their behaviour. They cared not about how their behaviour would affect a child like me. They showed no concern for my parents, my family or the neighbours. They were indifferent to the consequences. If the police caught them, the judge would throw away the key. They cared not. I could see it clearly without anyone telling me. I didn't need to attend school or read books to know what it was I knew in that moment, for the expression conveyed everything from that man. The words that came to mind from that empty stare were heartless, uncaring, unforgiving, and active on a world of darkness. His face came so close I thought he was reading the graffiti on the wall behind me. A facial expression can affect us by shaping our mental health, influencing our social interaction. That one look impacted me. As humans, we need to be affirmed by others. The more we're exposed to a certain way of life, the more that life becomes an influence to us. I saw a man who was feared. For me, a young boy fearing how he could protect his family, his sisters, brothers. I witnessed a moment in that hateful man's gaze that changed me, where the age met the tender, the hand of the thief stole the innocence of the boy. It was a dark moment on a bright evening, a timeless scene that the seconds could not count, because it vanished in the blink of an eye. Wisdom came where foolishness gathered. In despair, joyfulness sprang up, like the spring morning, full of new life. For there was a hope in me, in the midst of that darkness. The gun-handling man glanced the second time and at his friend, muttering, "That's not him." They walked away in full view of everyone on the streets. Nobody dared say a word. We hadn't got phones then, but nobody was going to ring the guards. But when they reached their car, they noticed something, that someone had slashed their tyres and smashed the panes of glass there. Tension was on the street. It showed up with the gunslingers. It arrived with them, and it probably never left. Their presence lingered. You could see the effects in the shuffling of boys' feet and the scanning of eyes that kept watch and open windows. The sluggish day broke. There was Gussie, Baa Baa and me. Peanut was disappeared somewhere. The sun stuck its head out, and I was happy not to be going around with a bullet in my skull. The idea bothered Gussie. Baa Baa shivered at the thought. The doors in the house is opened. Welcoming sounds of the radio came out. Sounds of normality, of normal life. The corner boys moved off. Lefty, shoulders bumpy. Bumpy glanced over his shoulders at me. I saw myself, as if in a dream, walking among them, the toast of the neighbourhood. A boy designed and structured from the mindset of that particular world. Then I imagined, "Ma, you have us driven up the wall." I didn't know where that wall was, nor did I have any idea how they climbed it. But from the day I turned 13, I was the one responsible for causing them to go running up that wall. "Up that wall," says she. "I'm not kidding you. You have us driven up that wall." Chapter 5. I pictured myself driving a car fast and furious up that wall, with Dad in the front, Mad in the back, and me granny to the left, saying, "Your granddad drove us up the wall too. It's in the blood, you see. Go on, son. Put it in the fifth and fly us to the moon." I thought about walls, fast cars and the moon. I told this to Gussie. He said, "My man Dad's up that wall as well. They're always up that wall." Gussie was the best. He loved the old black and white films. And his ma, he was forever talking about his ma. Me ma this, me ma that. She was small, thin, full of chat. Happy Dungarvan. Her eldest son was the best thing since sliced bread, and better than anything that ever came after that great invention. Her son was an altar boy, soon to be priest, and one day he'd be the first Irish pope. After all, we came from the land of saints and scholars. Gussie liked being an altar boy. He said the father was okay, tough man, but took no nonsense. But the other fella before him would give you a clatter if you had mind to. Gussie's ma was happy. Happy Dungarvan, yeah. Happy Dungarvan loved her house, her kids, but most of all Gussie, and the frame of the door where she stood smoking her fags. Happy Dungarvan loved her fags and a cup of tea. It's fair to say there wasn't much that passed her eyes. She missed nothing, because she stood there at that frame looking at everything, much like Tilly Two Guns, or Two Guns Tilly, and Doolittle across the street. Two Guns Tilly liked her tea and a deep puff and the cigar, or sometimes the pipe. She had a different look in her eyes, and I wasn't happy like Dungarvan's, because she didn't come from there. She came from the north inner city, where as a kid she sold fish on a pram with buckety wheels, just like me ma, because me ma grew up near her. Dad, he was a full-fledged Southside man who was forever saying, "Relax, do I look like Rothschild?" My dad was forever talking about Rothschild. "Do I look like Rothschild? What do you think I am, Rothschild? When you spell me name, leave out Rothschild." In school the next day, we watched from the window as Miss McCarthy pulled up in her car. She was late, quite out of character for her. When she came in, she placed her bag on the table and half sat on the same table where her bag was and said, "Now boys, I have a special treat for you today, and I want to be very quick about this, because I have a friend of mine coming in, a special guest, as I said, and he would like to have a chat with you little chaps. And I want to talk about Cork. Now, let's get straight to the point. Cork, meaning marsh, is the second largest city in Ireland. The county town of County Cork, the largest city in the province of Munster, and the third largest city in this island. May I say, the city centre is an island between two channels of the River Lee, which meets downstream at its eastern end, where the quays and the docks along the river lead towards the Lough Cork Harbour, one of the largest, most natural harbours in the world. Where, boys? We said, in the world. Very good. Cork was founded in the 6th century by the monks. It was a monk settlement, and expanded by the Viking invaders around the 915. Cork City was once fully walled, and the remains of the old medieval town centre can be found around South and North Main Street. The city's nickname, the Rebel City, originated from its support of particular English people, may I put it that way, at the time during the War of the Roses. Cork people sometimes refer to the city as the Rebel City, a reference to the opposition of the Anglo-Irish Treaty and the Irish Civil War. She looked at her watch when suddenly a knock came to the door, and to my great surprise, in walked Mr. Pickwick. I thought, what is he doing here? He better not start talking to anyone about me and that meeting in the house, I was very taken back by him. Now, boys, this is my good friend Thomas, who you boys can call Mr. Pickwick. I've invited him here along as you boys are about to fly your wings this summer for the last time, never to return to this school. She looked sad when she saw those words. She sewed them in and looked sad. But she continued, here is a mail to give you some guidance. Mr. Pickwick is from Cork. Sorry, enough said. I will let him tell you all about himself. With that, she picked up her bag and left. And I thought, say one word about me, and I won't be far behind her. Mr. Pickwick picked up the page on the table that Miss McCarthy had left behind. He scanned it and looked at us. His eyes never rested on me. They did wander around the class. My heart was beating faster than the Jackson 5's drummer. He looked at the page again and said, I see your teacher, Miss McCarthy, was teaching you about my city. Let me just give you a brief rundown. The city was fully walled. Some walled sections remain today, I'm sure she told you. From the Middle Ages, Cork City was an outpost of old English culture in the midst of a predominantly hostile Gaelic countryside and cut off from the English government in the Pale around Dublin. Do you remember the Pale? I'm sure you've thought about it. Neighbouring Gaelic and Norman lords extended black rent from the citizens to keep them from attacking the city. The reason I've said this is that as Dublin boys, I'm sure you've learned all about your troubled history in this capital. But you're not alone. Cork had his own dark history. But out of it came Michael Collins. Now let me ask a few questions. Was Michael Collins right or wrong? Nobody answered, and the reason being, we hardly heard of him. Mr. Pickwick picked up on that, and he gave us a full-blown, short, but action-filled account of Michael Collins' life, adding, the question whether Michael Collins was right or wrong is in his tactics, may I say, is subjected to tense and ongoing debate, with no single agreement. His actions during the War of Independence and the Anglo-Irish Treaty made him a hero to some and a traitor to others. In short, he was a man of his time, as we are also. So let me just get to the point, lads. Holding a gun in your hand does not make you a hero. To insult people, may I say, is to show your ignorance, not your wisdom. I'd be lying to say there are not dark things in life, and I would be lying even more if I told you they'd never come near you. Life can be dark, but remember, when it is, you stand up and turn on the light. I have to say, I warmed to Mr. Pickwick that day. As he was leaving, I turned and looked back at him. And as he's putting things in his bag, he caught my stare. He winked at me and I winked back. One simple gesture from a man from Cork really touched me. He never blew my cover. And for me, that was the only thing. That was the most important thing. I could see the importance of trust. Something that wasn't easily available in the world I was entering. Chapter 6. The summer of 1972 was cool and dull, with high cloud cover. The rain stayed away. Well, at least that's how I remember it. It was around this time we made makeshift trolleys. Well, when I say we, I mean me. I made a trolley with old timber pallets and steel wheels. I loved it. So did the boys, Gussie, Baa Baa, Macca and Biggie. Macca was taller than us. He loved comics. The Beano, the Dandy. These featured well-known characters like Dennis the Menace and Bash Street Kids. So he gave us the name, the Nasher Street Kids. He called us this after Dennis's dog. Ma said that Macca had a sly way about him. When I questioned her, she just shrugged her shoulders and said, don't know, something sly about that fella. Anyway, I shrugged her off as well. Biggie was small, Macca was tall, but Biggie lobbed around after us all, in the very same way as Baa Baa did. Him and Baa Baa got on well, Anyway, we'd gathered around Maccar listening to him recount the latest adventures from his favourite characters. Maccar's eyes sparkled with excitement as he described their daring escapades, each tale more outrageous than the last. We hung on to his every word, imagining ourselves right alongside him, facing down challenges and outsmarting rivals in the wild world of the National Street Gang. Kids, I mean. Later, we raced our trolleys down a hill against no one. That way, we always won. Those days were filled with laughter and the thrill of being around each other. Maccar, like Gussie's sister, Anne, who we called A. He liked her a lot, but he really, and I mean really, liked Abigail, as did a lot of the boys. But she was way out of their league. Even as a kid, I knew that, and so did she. A said hello to Maccar. He said hello back. I could see he was a little bit nervous. I picked up the trolley and placed it against the wall. A garden wall, that is. Gussie muttered, "Go home, man." She refused to listen. Me sister loves her hair, Maccar. I love it as well, and mine. Do you like mine? He nodded. I nodded as she chewed gum and stared at Maccar as if he was one of those Michelangelo paintings that the teacher talked about. She put one foot in front of the other and pulled a piece of gum from her mouth. She rolled it around her finger and stretched it like a cheese pull. Anne cut across her thoughts. Me ma loves her hair, but she loves her cakes and nice things. And the boat you get from the ice cream man on a hot day, me dad gets them for us when the van comes around after our dinner on Sundays. Do you like boats or cones with flakes, Maccar? Me ma says I'm the image of me grandmother. She lived in the country. Ma loves the country. She said that her ma waved goodbye to her, my grandmother, who sat waving from a window as she sat there crying. That was the last time me ma ever saw her mother again, so she told me. She paused, and I looked at Gussie, not face to face, but one of those sneaky glances that me dad is famous for, because he looked at the whole family like that. As me granny says, you think you're smart with those sneaky eyes? You might think you're fooling everybody, but you won't fool me. You'd have to get up early in the morning to catch me out. I wondered about that, and why me dad would have to get up early. What would happen if you got up late? There was a single roll of steam coming down out of Gussie's nose. Well, obviously there wasn't, but that's the way I saw it. Then I saw it coming out of his ears. To myself, I laughed like he was a character from one of those stories that Maccar was telling us. However, his face was getting redder and redder than Santi's hat. And just as he was about to explode on Anne, who we called A, she skipped off. A nice spot, monkey, jumping off the bike and then putting it in his garden and leaving it alone. And then, right there, I had what we call an idea. Chapter 7. Ma was still having our meetings, and Mr. Pickwick from Cork, who lived in Dublin, was still coming. Everyone in the group respected him. I could see that. One night, I heard him say a prayer for me and the boys, or for the boys and me, should I say, to which everyone said amen. Ma's amen was louder than everyone else's. Later, he came into the kitchen. I was sitting on the chair watching Kojak on the telly. He poured a drink of water and looked me over, not in the copper judging type of way, and asked the question, "Do you read?" "Who, me? No. See, in the world of make-believe, nobody really dies." I smiled, not knowing what he was talking about. He went to leave with a glass of water in his hand, and just as he was about to walk out the door, he turned and said, "We don't live in the make-believe world. Ours is real, and in our world, people do die." No smile came from me. When he was gone, I heard a noise out the back. So I jumped off the chair and opened the back door, watching Monkey jumping over garden walls like a hurdler, with the lights of police torches following behind him. Monkey was a strong, narrow build with a rough-looking face. He was in his mid-20s. He was the sort of fella you wouldn't avoid, or you would avoid. The idea that I had the day before resurfaced once again when I spotted Monkey's bike lying against the wall again the very next day. The windows of his house had well-worn frames. Steeped in neglect, the doors were like something you'd seen a skip. The bike he'd left there from the garden wasn't much better. I had an idea, as I said, and as that idea shot through my mind, it came out of the shadows. Together we all eyed that bike, sitting there by itself along that wall. And then I thought, what if Monkey fella is spying on us? What horrible change would this bring to our lives? The thing to do here is stop examining the situation, cease listening to the voice of doubt. Move, and move I did. I placed my hand on the bike. The curtain shook. A tiny flutter. It shifted to the right, then to the left. We knew it wasn't the wind. It was 4 fingers and a thumb, a hand that had no problem splitting open skulls. And as we were the only brains there, guess whose skulls would be split open very quickly. I could hear the door going up and down, a creaking sound. The door handle jingled, and it went up and it went down. Then we took the bike and fled. Gussie ran in front, Baa Baa took the side. I raced past, taking the lead. I fired a glance over my shoulder. Monkey was coming out the door, unleashing a flood of angry words that was coming at us like bullets. There was, as you can imagine, scuffling and shuffling and stretching as each of us struggled to stay out of range. We fled past the block of houses and Willie the paper seller standing in the garden. The boys in the corner, girls playing hopscotch, and others swinging on makeshift swings. We cleared a fence and then a wall. We threw it over. The bike went with us. I watched Monkey come screaming on with something in his hand, and it wasn't a lollipop. Gussie's eyes darted at me and I at him. Baa Baa's crying. Their steps, we fled down them. Clunk, 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 clunk goes the bike. A car speeds up. We hear the sound. Monkey's drawing near. I overhear him. He's that close. Inhale the 3 blind mice. Abandon the peddler. Monkey's on our trail. Our nerves are shaking. Baa Baa turns to the right. Macca and Biggie are gone. They're hiding behind the garden wall. Baa Baa and I race like stallions. Gussie canters like a mule. Monkey turns into a lion, ripping the head off him from all to see. Gussie is now the victim. From a right hook, left hook, boot into the head, boot into the face, falls to the ground. His face hits it hard. The car that's chasing stops. Monkey leans forward, whispers something to the driver. He makes gestures. The monkey runs to cut me and Baa Baa off. Shifting breathlessly, I said, Baa Baa, Baa Baa, it's Gussie. He has Gussie. Rushing like the wind, we charge towards him. Monkey lifts the half-conscious Gussie who he'd gone back for, while the car swung around. While I jumped in the air in lightning speed, I gripped Monkey's shoulder, yanking him to the ground. He hits her hard, and I'm on my toes and gone. The boys are out, for now at least. We're safe. I take a peek at Gussie. Here, Gussie, you better tell your ma to get ready to go back up that wall. We trudged back, exhausted. Gussie's eyes were nearly closed, and his blood-soaked claws grabbed my attention. With one glance, he tries to smile through a busted lip. What I didn't hear is the car pulling alongside. Another man steps out and coolly walks up to us. Something tells me to run, but I'm wrecked. A voice from a neighbour hanging out the window roars that famous statement that now seems to follow me. Run, Pitbull, run. But I've had enough. It's all too extreme. The boys and I meet each other's passing glance, and before I can say a word, I get a smack wallop and a bang on the head as the ground rushes towards me faster than a runaway train. I receive a kick in the face. The streets become crowded. I'm flung against the wall. The monster moves into me. My head hurts, my lips bleeding. I look for Gussie and Baa Baa, but they're gone. Who could blame them? The man walks closer, taking off his coat. It looks like he's planning staying a while. He drops the stick and rolls up his sleeves, and I see my opening. Before he could say boo, I'm on my toes and fleeing, and like a swooping eagle I pick up his coat, hand it to a kid on the bike roaring, "Get that out of here!" The kid's gone. The man chases after him because I left him with those two choices. The kid drops the coat, sticks his 2 fingers into the air, and I catch up with the boys. They turn and head down the lane, and I race for home, shouting, "Catch us later! I'm going in. Me ma'll be up that wall." Now, Pitbull didn't exactly fit my description as I examined the situation. That day, Jack Russell would have been more fitting, if I'm honest. That's what my Pippi Longstocking's teacher had said to me, who called me one day and said, "I hear they call you Pitbull." Ha, Jack Russell, more like it. You're a snappy little chatty half a jacker. Boys, if you want to be good Catholics, memorise your catechism. If you don't, I'll be flabbergasted. She was forever flabbergasted. If she wasn't flabbergasted, she was worn out. I'm worn out. You boys have me worn out. In an angry moment, one bright day, she screamed at me, telling me that I'd warmed her up. I never heard that before. Worn out? I heard, but warmed up was new to me. I had me dad driven up the wall. Me ma was with him. Miss Flabbergast was worn up and out. Well, I walked home, chattering with a battered half, teeth, face, lips, eyes, like half a jacker, as Flabbergast had said, Mrs. Pippi Longstockings. Then I wondered what was for tea, as those words rang in my ear. Run, Pitbull, run. Chapter 8. I changed my mind and went back to the boys. Macca and Biggie went home, obviously. The rest of us agreed to play and stay together as long as the daylight told us we'd be okay. Baa Baa said, "I can't go home." "Why?" we asked. Me ma yells at me. What does she say? She says, "I don't want to spend another minute looking at you. I'm looking at you morning, noon and night." "Morning, noon and night," yaps Gussie. "Morning, noon and night," cries Baa Baa. "Morning, noon and night," he repeats. "My ma got a job working in the fisher," said Baa Baa. "I know because she smells like fish when she comes home." My dad said he's now a carpenter, but my ma says, "Don't be minding him. The only thing he ever cut was his finger," said Baa Baa. "Your dad's a cleaner in the school," I added. "My ma has a few fancy men. She says everyone fancies her," so Baa Baa said. "My ma loves reading and making sandwiches. She makes them in the morning and then at night and reads the holy book about all the shocking holy people," Gussie whispered. "What are you whispering for?" I muttered back. Me ma said she knows things. He tapped the side of his nose. "What things?" Baa Baa asked. "Shocking holy things that only heard in the Pope now." We hadn't gone 10 feet when along came Baa Baa's ma. Her name was Gail. She'd long, flaming red hair. She was small and of heavy build. Gail used her mouth to dig bigger holes than any JCB. "I was up at the butcher's," she said, to 3 battered 12-year-olds. "Up at the butcher's. The fella behind the counter can't get enough of me." She flung her hair back. "Mad about me, so he is." "Did you ever hear the story?" "No, okay, let me tell you. Once upon a time, There was 3 little dopes. She tipped her finger off each of her head as she repeated, 3 little dopes. Now, one was called after a muh. The other one was called after an idiot. And the other one was called after a baby. A big, fat, smelly baby. Baa Baa blinked and blinked again until his ma smacked him so hard that Gussie and I felt it. A neighbour passed. There you are, Gail. Ah, how are you? She put her arm around Baa Baa and shouted, I'm so proud. My son got a part in a play. He's a soldier. Doesn't he look fantastic in his makeup and costume? The teacher said he's a scholar. She said in all her boarding days she never came across the likes of him. Brains to burn. That's what she calls them. Brains to burn. She ran her tongue outside along her lips. She did it once and then she did it twice. The way someone would do once they've eaten cold ice cream. That was her action. I met the teacher's husband. She flicked her hair back. Mad about me. So he is. Says I'm the ringer for Maureen O'Hara. She repeated that. Maureen O'Hara. Ah, go away. Maureen, replied the neighbour, as if she knew the Hollywood actress. Yeah. Right, need to get Action Man home. You do that, Gail, said the neighbour. Very slowly were her words, how she used them. Her eyes were wide opened, and she replied the second time, You do that, Gail, as if it was a warning. Get him off the streets. Gail turned on Baa Baa, chewing him up as if he were a potato that all that needed to be done was swallowed. She chewed him alive in front of us. His face reddened the way one does when you have a fever. She marched him down the road while we listened to him wail above the sound of the distant traffic. Baa Baa's real name was John. His dad named him Charlie because he said he looked like Charlie the Kid from the Willy Wonka film. His man named him Baa Baa because she said he's nothing more than a Baa Baa. To me, Baa Baa was the crying boy in the famous painting, the one me ma had hanging on the bedroom wall. A family moved in across the street. As I was walking home, a kid opened the bedroom door. I could hear him from where I was and then stuck his head out the window. We got a new house. That's great, because we got one of them as well, I said, as Mr. Pickwick's words ran through my mind, faster than a robbed car breaking a red light. We don't live in a make-believe world. Ours is real, and in our world, people die. Chapter 9. My granny was the first to see me as I peeked into the kitchen. She stared, shaking her head in disbelief. All she talked about now was how tired she was and how sick and tired she felt. I'm tired and shipwrecked, and the jackdaws are waiting for me, said she. Gravestones and big jackdaws, that's the best I can hope for, she continued. She lit her pipe, the one she loved to smoke. Every time she did that, Dad would throw his head in the air. I mean, it would throw it so far back, I wonder how it managed to stay on the shoulders. Then she'd stack the fire, to which me dad would mutter, Does that woman think I'm Rothschild? The way she pulls that coal on, it's any wonder what broke. He thought she was hard of hearing, but she heard every word. She had puffed that pipe, filling the room with a cloudy fog, while belching, yawning, grunting and munching. You married a fool. Every inch of that father of yours, he was a fool too. Forever talking about the troubles, as if we hadn't any of our own, a fool. It's a pity you weren't more like me, Mary. Oh, he smelled too, so he did. Smelled of feet and drink. The man was a fool. Will you sit down, Mary? Let him do it, lazy arse there. Ma, I've work to do, work. Don't talk to me about work, rare 10 years. Well, 3 years died, 7 of yous. That fool sit in the pub. Now sit down before you drive yourself into an early grave. It's bad enough I'm heading there. Jackdaws and gravestones. That's what awaits me. Da's standing in the corner. It's back to everyone. Ma examines the expression on Granny's face. She raises her eyelids, moves her neck, stretches her leg. Ma hugs herself. I guess no one else wanted to bother their arse, as me dad would say. What's up with him? Was he dropped on his head as a baby? I peeked sidewards, watching me dad bite down on his little fist again. That old fist. If he wasn't biting his lips, he was biting down on his own fist. Me granny smacks her lips. She smacks them again. Me throat is as dry as a narrow sandbag. Put on the tea there, Mary, before I die of thirst, and corner boy there gets arrested for loitering. I raced up the stairs, washed me face, changed me clothes and thought, hey, I don't look too bad. They'll never know anything. When I got back into the kitchen, she's there, the blanket pulled up to her chin, that mad hairdo sticking up, the pipe hanging from her lips. She resembled a scarecrow. Suddenly her face goes pale, and she appears, or may I say, she appears to stop breathing. We all gather around her, looking at her, as if it was the last time we'd see that scary hairdo. My Aunt Maggie came in right on cue, as she often did. Ma left the hall door open, or at least that key was in the lock, as a lot of families did, as I said. Sure enough, anyway, whatever it was, she came in, and Ma said, she who'd rob us? There's nothing to rob. Me dad up and said, Mary, take that key out. We'll be robbed in our beds. Robbed? Robbed of what? She who'd rob us? They come in here, they'd leave us something. Oh, Ma, is she all right? Says Aunt Maggie, rubbing the side of her face as she came in the kitchen. Suddenly she opened her eyes, screwed her brown-tipped finger into the side of me Aunt Maggie's face, and says, you'd have me in the grave in a heartbeat, so you would. Ma, don't ma me, I'll flatten every one of yous. The woman should be in a home with her dad, a mad home, one with iron gates, big locks, no keys and loads of guards. Me ma looked sharply at him. We should never have moved here. She whimpers and runs. Yeah, she runs to the other side of the kitchen. Like, where does she think she's going? Mary. Don't, she says, putting her hands up as if she's defending herself against Bruce Lee. For heaven's sake, don't start, Mary. Start. The woman is mad. She's driving me mad, Dad shouts at the top of his voice. Be careful what you say about my mother, squealed Aunt Maggie. So there he goes, the fool, talking of graves and jackdaws, and me heading there. Me granny grunts. Oh, I can't spend another second in this house, cries Ma. Not another second. So slowly, not slowly, but very, very slowly, she turns and gazes at me as if she'd never seen me before. There is a very long, lingering pause that no word in literature could describe. Silence. And as she stares at me, so they all do, then she screams, You've driven us up the wall. The man hasn't slept in a year. Gripping my collar, she says, You dirty scumbug. She wanted to say scumbag. Now that's a word I've heard before, but scumbug, well, that was new to me. Here, take my stick and redden his arse, the dirty slumbug, me granny said. And while me ma was swinging, not sminging, While me ma was swinging me around the room, as me granny would say, I caught a glimpse of that mad owl one's hairdo, and sitting there, snot oozing from her nose, saliva dripping down those gums onto her old pipe. Slumbug! The Pope would turn in his grave to look at you, said she, as I came within inches of her face. And just then me Aunt Maggie hit me a clatter, saying, "To think of it, the poor Pope can't even rest with you." So I roared, "The Pope? What has that outfit got to do with me?" Silence came into that room, to the point I thought rigor mortis had set in to every last one of them. Ma broke it by hitting in my da, saying, "See, I told you, you should never have moved here. Look what you're rearing. Blasphemers." Chapter 10. My granny quacks like a duck. The thought jumped into my head when she got out of that chair an inch past the lot of us. Da muttered, "That Ellen walks like a duck." She lifted her head. Her movements were slow. My granny stared at him. The stare was long and hard. There wasn't a sound made. Nobody moved, and nobody uttered a word, until she smashed the silence with, "What did you say?" I said, paused. She intensed her gaze. He hesitated in the pause. She did too. Me ma pushed closer. She thrust some more ideas into me dad's head by pinching his little finger and blocked the way. "I forgot me book. I said I forgot me book." There was a sigh of relief. The radio shouted, "And now, for the Goodwill family, the latest hit, the golden hour of silence." If he'd played a request for us, it would have been the score from The Good, the Bad and the Ugly. Me ma and dad were good. There's no second guessing who ugly one is, and it doesn't take a genius to work out who the bad fella is either. As I was pondering this, my granny turned on me. "See him, corner bug? He's the problem." "Oh, you corner bug slum bucket," screamed me ma. She went to hit me, but I ducked and ran around the table. Get him!" shouted me granny. Me dad tried to cut me off, but I dived under the table, crawling out of there, shouting, "Good luck to the lot of yous." We got into the lane where we hung around. All the boys were there. When they saw me, they all fell over in a fit of laughter. I had black eyes. Well, it was the only thing they could see as I was coming up into that corner where they were. The boys were always there. In the background are houses. They're all similar in appearance, like there's not one single thing different about any of them, except the numbers on the doors. You can smell that old cabbage cooking, hit your nostrils hard, like I need anything else to be hitting mine. See, I was one of those kids who hated anything green, so can you imagine what Patrick's Day did to me? Gussie had this hair. You know the sort of hair that never does what it's told? You tell it to do this and it does that. Anyway, on that day it was going everywhere, which way and what. And his lip was thicker on one side. When Bobby Odd Socks came along, he roared, "Here, look at Gussie. He looks like Elvis after getting booted around America." "Yeah, what would you know about it, Bobby? Are you still wet in the bed? I heard your own is up to her neck in grandad nappies with you." Then Macca came strolling along. He also had a black eye. Who knows where he got that? Because the funny thing was, he ran away, as Macca often did. Now the other part that was funny was he was wearing a jumper, black and white stripes, and sitting on the back of his head was a monkey hat. On seeing Gussie and me, he said, "Here, what happened to Batman and Robin?" Everybody looked at us and broke into a fit of laughter, and I said, "Would you look at Panda Bear there?" Macca sort of got it, and it came on him like a revelation, because suddenly he pulled his jumper off, saying, "Well, what's wrong with panda bears anyway?" I could see he was unsettled by the way he kept looking at his jumper. Macca loved slagging and throwing it all out there, but he wasn't great at receiving it. I noticed how he pondered on things, and he often produced a funny look on his face, and he went red very easy. Ma's words came back to me. There's something sly about that young fella. I don't know why, but he always went red over the smallest of things. It wasn't that he was a snob or anything. His birthright entitled him to the same social standing as the rest of us, as the hang-on-the-corner boys, the dropouts that people called the go-nowhere fast people. That was us. It was rumoured Macca's dad had been a sailor, sailing the seven seas with pirates, notorious seamen who had cold eyes and iron teeth. They sneered at death. The truth was, his old man was afraid of water, for he worked in the corporation. Macca gave me a nod and we left, saying, "See you later." As we walked together, I asked him, "What happened?" 4 of them jumped me. When I was on the ground, they said, "Tell Pitbull to watch his back." What? Who's the 4 of them? I don't know. Not the best news to hear after getting the kicking I got. "Don't worry about it," I replied, thinking, I hope they don't know where I live. These guys are often have an attraction for your head, your legs and your arms, not only your back. And sometimes it's your windows, your doors and any old banger the outfit has. Those boys didn't lie when it came to their interest in your back. And it's normally not your back, as I said, they have an interest in. All of a sudden, something came across my mind again, as Ma's words ran through my brain. Something sly about him. Something sly about him. Someone had robbed the car and crashed it. Macca believed they were blaming me, but I didn't drive. He never said anything then. All that mattered was, now I was a marked man, and keeping my eye on my back was going to take a whole new meaning. And watch it I did. And as I was walking away and Macca was going his way, there was that turn, that one moment of a shared glance where our eyes met, even from a distance. And Ma's words came to me for about the 3rd time. Sly about that young fella.